Imagine being alone in the wilderness, surrounded by the serene beauty of nature, when suddenly you're face to face with a 250-pound black bear. In that life-threatening moment, who would come to your rescue? For biologist Steve Krichbaum, the answer wasn't a fellow hiker or a forest ranger. It was his loyal dog, Henry, a 40-pound rescue with scruffy white fur and a heart way bigger than his size. This is the incredible, true story of a once abandoned dog who became a life-saving hero. Let's rewind the clock to August 2014. It was an ordinary summer day in the George Washington National Forest, over 1 million acres of dense, rugged wilderness stretching across the Appalachian Mountains of Virginia and West Virginia. The kind of place where the air smells like pine needles and damp earth, where the only sounds are birds, the wind, and maybe, if you're lucky, the slow shuffle of a turtle along a stream bed. That's what Steve Krichbaum was out there for. A conservation biologist, Steve was tracking wood turtles for research. He knew the area well, and so did his best friend, a mixed-breed rescue dog named Henry. Henry always stayed close, sniffing around, sometimes chasing a squirrel, but never wandering far. That day, they'd been hiking for hours, following the curve of a shallow creek. Steve moved slowly, scanning the ground for signs of turtle nests along a shallow creek, until suddenly, he heard the snap of twigs. Steve looked up. About 30 feet ahead, 2 black bear cubs had wandered out from the underbrush, their small, curious faces peeking through the green. And just like that, every muscle in Steve's body went still, because he knew exactly what that meant. Cubs never wander alone. Somewhere nearby, the mother was watching, and if she thought her babies were in danger, she wouldn't hesitate. Instinct kicked in. Steve's first thought was Henry. Would he bark? Run toward them? He turned to call him back, trying to keep his voice steady. But before he could even finish the sentence, she appeared. The mother bear. Massive, alert, and already locked onto Steve. In a split second, the peaceful quiet of the forest shattered. She charged. Steve did everything he could think of. He waved his arms, shouted, tried to look big. That's what the experts say you're supposed to do. But this bear wasn't backing down. She was protecting her cubs, and to her, Steve was a threat. She crashed into him with full force, knocking him to the ground. Then came the claws, the teeth. She bit into his thigh, his forearm. The pain was immediate and blinding. Steve fought back, grabbed at her fur, punched, kicked, but it didn't matter. She was too strong, too fast. I thought I was going to die, Steve said later. I remember thinking, this is it. But just when he thought it was over, something incredible happened. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a blur of white, a flash of motion. It was Henry. In a split second, he launched himself at the bear. No hesitation, no fear, just pure, instinctive loyalty. He didn't weigh more than 40 pounds, but it didn't matter. He hit the bear with everything he had, leaping onto her back, barking, growling, biting, doing anything he could to pull her attention away from Steve. And somehow, it worked. The bear turned, roaring, swatting at Henry now. But he was fast, ducking, dodging, snapping back, giving Steve precious seconds. And that tiny window of time was all Steve needed. He managed to scramble to his feet, blood soaking through his jeans, pain searing down his arm. But he was alive. And Henry, still fighting, still buying Steve time. The whole thing lasted seconds. Maybe 10, maybe 15, but it felt like hours. Eventually, the bear backed off and she disappeared into the trees, her cubs following closely behind. Steve rushed to Henry, heart pounding. He dropped to his knees beside him, running his hands over Henry's body, trying to figure out how bad the damage was. A few deep cuts, one on his shoulder, another near his ribs. But Henry wagged his tail, just once, as if to say, I'm okay. Steve used his shirt to bandage his wounds as best he could. Then, with Henry at his side, he began the slow, painful hike back to the car, over a mile away. They drove straight to the hospital. Steve needed stitches, a lot of them. His injuries were serious, deep puncture wounds and gashes, but miraculously, nothing life-threatening. Meanwhile, Henry was rushed to a nearby animal hospital. He had several cuts and one wound that required surgery. But the vets were optimistic. He was going to be okay. And he soon made a full recovery. Looking back, Steve says, "I owe my life to that dog, no doubt about it." He was just a 40-pound rescue, not a guard dog, not trained to fight. But in the moment that mattered most, when Steve's life was on the line, Henry didn't hesitate. He ran into the danger. News of the attack quickly reached local media. The story spread, first in West Virginia, then across the country. People were stunned. A dog saves his owner from a bear attack? It sounded like something out of a movie. But it was real. Photos of Steve and Henry side by side, both bandaged but smiling, were shared thousands of times. Animal lovers from around the world sent messages of support, and Henry was quickly labeled as a hero. But he didn't do it for the fame or the applause. He did it because he loved Steve. Simple as that. And if you've ever loved a dog, really loved one, you know that look they give you. That unwavering, unblinking, unconditional loyalty. That's what saved Steve's life. It wasn't brute strength. It wasn't training. It was love. Henry lived several more happy years after that day in the forest. He went on hikes, chased squirrels, slept on Steve's bed. And every once in a while, Steve would catch himself watching Henry and think, "You saved me." Not metaphorically, literally. Today, Henry is no longer with us. When he passed, he went peacefully in Steve's arms. He lived a long life, a good life, and one that will never, ever be forgotten. Henry's a reminder that heroes come in all shapes and sizes. Sometimes they have 4 legs, floppy ears, and a tail that thumps against the floor when they see you. And sometimes they arrive in your life just in time to save it. If Henry's bravery touched your heart, give this video a like, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more real stories of the incredible bond between humans and their animals.